The discipline of urban forestry involves the care and protection of street trees, yard and landscape trees, municipal plantings, and municipal green space. Like the gentleman on the slide here, some arboriculture work involves technical climbing, pruning, cabling, bracing, and tree removal. But there are other jobs available conducting street tree inventories, identifying and mitigating tree damaging agents like insects and disease, and managing power line right-of-ways. There are several larger companies that offer entry-level positions and internships. In the past few years, I feel like there has been a really strong demand for entry-level arboriculture workers. There's also no shortage of small independent arborists who may be interested in hiring on an entry-level employee. So there are a variety of jobs available in the urban forestry professions. Occasionally we will have a graduate go into the logging business or express interest in going into the logging business. Given the high overhead costs associated with logging equipment purchases, high insurance rates, and all the variable costs that go into logging, it's exceedingly rare for a student to make a go of it independently right after school. But there are job opportunities available with established logging contractors. The nature of logging work varies substantially with the area of the country in which you work. Logging in the southeast and parts of the northeast have become highly mechanized, machine-based. In Appalachia and much of the Pacific Northwest, timber is still largely cut by hand, given the terrain limitations of operating equipment. But really, across the board, successful loggers must be skilled timber fallers, skilled equipment operators, skilled mechanics, and really astute and capable business people. Manual timber falling, the actual felling of trees with a chainsaw, ranks as the most hazardous profession in the United States based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Heavy equipment operation is inherently dangerous. The operating costs are high, and profit margins are pretty slim. So when you combine those realities with the fact that your work days are long and your production is heavily influenced by the weather, which is outside of your control, you start to get a picture of how challenging a task logging is. That being said, I've worked several jobs in the woods over the years, and the limited amount of time that I spent as a timber faller included some of the most satisfying work days I've ever experienced. It's a job that is both mentally and physically demanding in ways that are not replicated in any other profession, but it certainly isn't for everyone. For those interested in this type of work, there is some formal training available in North Carolina through the North Carolina Professional Loggers Association. They provide an intensive training program. A lot of it is really equipment-based and equipment operating based. And upon completion of the program, they work with graduates in a job placement capacity, and they do really well with finding employment for folks who go through the program. You can also learn on the job as an apprentice with an experienced logger, and that's usually how most folks go about entering the world of logging. I just thought I'd include a slide here of a pretty common setup for an Appalachian logging job where the timber is cut and bucked by hand to be skidded or dragged to a small landing utilizing a bulldozer with a cable winch. Wheeled cable skidders are also commonly utilized, and some of you guys may have no idea what I'm talking about when I use those terms, but you will by the time we're done with this course. As I mentioned, throughout much of the southeast where the trees and the terrain allow it, timber is harvested mechanically by feller bunchers like this. That requires a completely different skill set than harvesting trees by hand. Land trusts offer a lot of volunteer opportunities and occasionally full-time positions. Land trusts are nonprofit organizations that either purchase land with high conservation value outright, or they purchase the development rights for a property to ensure its conservation value in perpetuity. They also accept land and development right donations. There are several land trusts in western North Carolina, including the Southern Appalachians Highlands Conservancy in Asheville. That's where these images are from here on the slide. They often offer good resume building volunteer opportunities, doing ecological work like removing invasive species, or building and maintaining recreational trails, or participating in other stewardship activities. Some of the land trusts are more inclined towards active stewardship than others, but again, they often provide a lot of good opportunities, at the very least, to do some volunteer work. This slide here provides some examples of ongoing applied ecological research projects that were developed by the U.S. Forest Service Southern Research Station. The top left illustrates a portion of a mast production study. They're basically counting acorns that fall in those nets. The far right is of a reintroduced American chestnut tree, and the image on the bottom left shows an invasive species control study site. I think a lot of what you've got in there is English ivy is what the invasive species of concern is there. The U.S. Forest Service and other federal agencies that conduct ecological research often hire technicians to conduct the field work. We have students that have found positions at Bent Creek Experimental Forest in Asheville, that's an experimental forest with the U.S. Forest Service, and also at Coweta Hydrologic Lab in Otto, North Carolina. Also affiliated with the U.S. Forest Service, and those individuals assist in long-term ecological research and research involving forest management, fire use and behavior, ecosystem and watershed function, and wildlife habitat characteristics. I'm often asked if it makes sense to continue on towards a 4-year degree after a student is done with our 2-year degree program. And the primary purpose of this lecture here is just to give you an idea of the number of potential career paths you have following the completion of your 2-year program. But in the world of forestry, like most professions, more education will only increase the number of job opportunities available to you. Professional forester jobs, unless you work your way up through private industry, generally require a 4-year degree. Specialty agency positions, sort of business-centered positions within forest industry, and research positions usually require a 4-year degree at a minimum. The Society of American Foresters, founded by Gifford Pinchot in 1900, represents the forestry profession in the United States. It advocates for science-based forest management and works to improve forestry education by developing curriculum and accrediting forestry programs that meet those standards. Haywood Community College is the only 2-year accredited forestry program in North Carolina recognized by the Society of American Foresters. We have a Student Society of American Foresters chapter here at HCC, and we actively seek to attend local, regional, and national Society of American Forester meetings and conventions. Becoming an SAF member and networking with members, professional members, is a great way to find employment and start to develop relationships that will help you advance your career. In closing, here are just a few recommendations to think about on the slide. If you have any job-specific questions, again, be sure to ask them in the discussion board this week, and definitely let me know if I can help you in any way.